Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Raid, Issue 1. This is from Titan Comics, written by Ollie Masters, art by Buddy Setawan, colorist was Brad Simpson, letterer Jim Campbell, editor Martin Eden. This book is a take on the movie The Raid. It's a different situation. This time it involves a prison, and Rama, who was our hero from the movie, is undercover in prison as Yuda. And then we've got an assassin, we've got this guy named Benjo, who's a Jakartan crime boss, and we've got Hammer Girl and Baseball Batman, and a guy named Uko, and Tasia. Tasia's a cop who screws up real bad, and it ends up getting him thrown in jail. He makes a raid unauthorized and tries to arrest somebody, gets a whole bunch of cops killed, and now he's in prison for it. And unfortunately, that puts Rama's cover in jeopardy because Rama's in jail undercover, and this guy recognizes him from the academy. And unfortunately, this guy just cannot avoid trouble. People know he's a cop, so they come looking, and a fight breaks out, and it is a really good fight scene. There's this cool scene like in, what was it? I think it was Romeo Must Die with Jet Li, where they do this x-ray thing, and you can see the bones breaking when people get hit. It's a really cool effect. There is a lot of swearing in this, but overall the fight scenes were really good. The story started off strong, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I thought it was a well-executed book. The art is not my favorite, but it's definitely better than I expected. It's at least average quality. I would say the cover is actually really, really good. That looks like a painting, but I would definitely recommend this. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it looks like it could be a really good miniseries, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. But it's an interesting setup, being in a prison with one of them undercover and the other one being targeted, basically. And it looks like it's going to get pretty gory and violent. So this is a definite recommend if you like action movie stuff. There is a lot of swearing and blood and violence in this, so be aware of that. It's definitely for mature audiences. But that's just my take on it. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss future reviews. And if you want to help the channel grow and help me get more books to review, Patreon link is on the About page and should be in the description. Thanks as always for listening, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Raid, Issue 2 from Titan Comics. This is part of the miniseries based on the films, written by Ollie Masters, art by Budai Sentawan, colorist Brad Simpson, letterer Jim Campbell, editor Martin Eden. This is from 2018, of course, and we've got our main cast of Rama, who's undercover as Yuda, Bejo, who's like a ruthless gang lord. We got Hammer Girl and Baseball Batman, who are contract killers, and Tasia, who's a special operations cop. He's kind of new to the series, and he's undercover, and Tasia's in prison. Now, the issue is kind of cut between three people. Baseball Batman and Hammer Girl are doing their thing. Bejo is trying to do his thing, but there are obstacles in his way, and Rama and Tasia are in prison, and they got their own problems. So we intersperse the three storylines. We see Baseball Batman and Hammer Girl doing their thing. Bejo is more the focus of this issue. He's trying to set up a business, a restaurant. He's running into problems with a local enforcer, Hansamu, who is sort of running things in the area. He runs the street vendors and illegal meat. So that guy's trying to hone in on his restaurant and say, hey, you owe me protection money, and that's not going well. Meanwhile, Rama, who's in disguise as Yuda, is trying to help Tasia by saying that he's going to pay him protection money. So Rama's going to take the money as a cover for him actually giving him real protection, because he doesn't want to blow his cover. And there's a really great fight scene in the prison yard that looks really cool, and it's really well done. But the main story is, of course, Bejo and how he's dealing with this local mob guy. And it looks like issue 3 is going to make all three storylines converge. But it was a really good setup issue for what's coming next. If you haven't read issue 1, you'll probably get kind of the idea from the quick synopsis in the front and the dialogue between them, at least of what the characters are doing. But but not how they're all related to each other. But I thought it was a really good issue. It definitely moves the story along quite well, and it does it in a very concise manner where you feel like it's very cinematic and the characters are slowly making their way toward each other to intersect in a really violent showdown. But it was good stuff. I thought this issue was really well done. I'm not familiar with the author's previous works, but from what I've seen so far, he's very talented and has a lot of potential. Seems to understand the medium of comics very well and is capable of doing good work. So as far as this issue goes, I'll definitely recommend it. If you can pick up both issues, 1 and 2, definitely do so. Issue 3 will be coming out in a few weeks, and I'm hoping to get that as soon as possible. But this is definitely good stuff, and I'm really enjoying it. It really does kind of have the feel of the movies. Not quite as violent, but the gore factor is definitely there, and it's hard to translate a lot of action scenes in one comic. But there's a lot of action here for a 32-page comic book, or 28, whatever it is, and I would definitely recommend this. So if you get a chance, if you like action movie stuff, you'll like this. If you like Asian crime lord movies, which who doesn't, you'll probably dig this too. Give it a chance. I think you'll enjoy it, but that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel further, Patreon links and Teespring links are in the description, and we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Raid, issue 3 of 4 from Titan Comics. And this was written by Alex Pecknaldel, plot by Ali Masters, art by Buddy Stedawan, the colorist was Brad Simpson, letterer was Jim Campbell, editor Martin Eden. Now, Rama and Tasia are trying to get somewhere safe because they're being chased by a large gang in the prison. We get a flashback of the initial movie, The Raid, The Redemption, where he killed the brother of this one criminal, and now he is in prison with that criminal, and they run into him in the kitchens. So of course there's going to be a big showdown there, and it's a really cool sequence, but it's kind of broken apart through the book as we get flashbacks of what Bijou is doing and how he talks to his father. Well, things don't necessarily go as planned because Bijou's restaurant was destroyed, so he brought Baseball Batman, Hammer Girl, and an assassin into the restaurant of the man that burned his restaurant down. So to make a point, he clears everyone out, saying that the food is contaminated, and then they proceed to torture the guy, and to show he's serious, Bijou shows him the head of his own father, which is pretty messed up. But they go through and even kill the cooks, and it is just violence for like half the issue at least. It's a pretty brutal issue, there's some pretty gory stuff, but that's when we learned that Tasia did in fact get in contact with Bunawar, who's the head of the anti-corruption task force, and he's going to spill the beans on the corruption within the police department. So now they have a problem. They've got to take care of Tasia in prison. Well, Rama's still in there, and they're having their own problems right now, but it's about to get a lot worse. So the final showdown is set up. The two lines are converging, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty brutal showdown between all of these people as the gang infiltrates the prison, where a different prison gang, or possibly some of the same guys, are after Tasia and Rama. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty bloody final issue, but overall this was a good advancement of the plot, very action-packed. Like I said, it's a little gory, so it's definitely for mature audiences, but it was a fun read, and it's definitely an issue you have to read issues 1 and 2 to understand what happened here, but it was a good time. It did flow very quickly, and I'm excited to read issue 4. So I would definitely recommend this if you've read issues 1 and 2 or are planning on reading the entire miniseries. I would definitely recommend it then, but if you're just picking this one up randomly, there's some good action scenes, but you'll have no idea what's going on. So it's a recommend if you're planning on reading the miniseries or the trade, but otherwise it might be a little too confusing as to who's who other than the little introduction thing. But I would still recommend it. But that's just my opinion. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss future reviews. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Raid, issue 4. This is the final issue of the miniseries. This takes place during The Raid 2. Of course, we've got Rama, who's undercover as Yuda, Tasia, who knows a little too much, Bijou, who's a crime boss, a guy called the Assassin, we have Hammer Girl, we have Baseball Batman. So all the characters are in play in this one. A guard at the front door of the jail is bribed, letting in the Assassin, Hammerman, and Baseball Bat Girl, while Rama and Tasia Tasia are in their cells. Now, most people are out at the yard, so they're pretty well alone in the cell block, but they quickly realize that somebody else has come in, some small fires start, and they're chased out. The assassin manages to get Rama in the face with some gasoline, and it kind of goes downhill from there. So while they're fighting, Tasia ends up in the yard, a bloody showdown ensues, and wow, this is a very brutal fight issue, and well, it does not have an incredibly happy ending. It really goes into a lot of depth with a really depressing ending, but it does set up for more adventures, and I don't want to say too much more than that because I'll give away the ending and I don't want to do that. But overall, this was a really good book, and I was really happy with it. I thought it was really handled well. I thought the characters were fun. It's pretty simplistic as far as character development goes. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys. As a whole, the miniseries was fun if you like the Raid movies. Now, if you don't like action movies and you were expecting some sort of navel-gazing, in-depth character analysis, this is far from the book for you. But if you're looking for an action miniseries, this is it. And it does tell a cohesive story. The ending is different than I expected, but not bad. It's written by Alex Paknaldal, plot by Ali Masters, art by Budai Setawan, colorist was Brad Simpson, letterer Jim Campbell, editor Martin Eden. Apologize if I butchered any of the names, because I'm not real good with foreign names, as you probably all know. But the fact that this takes place during the Raid 2, it explains quite a bit of what's going on, and you know, really, this is a pretty brutal fight book from issue 1 on. It's got just constant action. It's definitely a good series to pick up if you're a fan of the movies and you own the movies, especially. I think you'll want to put this with the movies, so I would recommend it on that front. If you're not a fan of the movies, you're probably not going to enjoy the book anyway, so I don't know. Most likely you'll be able to find these issues fairly cheap, or you could pick it up in trade paperback format. I'm probably going to get it in trade paperback because I thought it was pretty good. If you get a chance to pick these up out of a cheap bin, I didn't feel ripped off for $4 because it was an action-packed issue, but a lot of people might want a little more story, so you might want to look for it in the bargain bin. $2 a piece is a fair price in my opinion, but like I said, I paid cover price. I didn't feel cheated for my money, but you may not feel the same way. If you see it in the bargain bin, definitely snatch it up. If you see it on trade paperback, I'd recommend it. I thought it was fun. It's an interesting story, but it is pretty gory. It is a very adult series. So as this issue is by a standalone, you're not going to know what's going on, but there's a lot of action to be had. But as a miniseries, it was a solid story, and I would definitely recommend it. So I would recommend the issue and the miniseries. If you get a chance to pick it up, I would definitely recommend it. But that's just my take. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews, and we hope to see you on the next one.